Hello, everybody. Welcome to Optimizing Your Success, where you are going to figure out today, how is it that high achievers get so much done? What are their productivity hacks? And everyone's got their own things that they do. Everyone's got what they procrastinate over. Everyone's got what they do first. Everyone's got a different way of doing things. And as we know, all adults are different, and everyone has different things that would work for them. So we're going to talk a little bit about what works for the people here on the panel. You can try them out and see if they work for you. My name is Dr. Ruth Gotian. I am coming to you from New York. My background is in adult learning and leadership, and I research elite high achievers. So I am obsessed with success, and this is what we are bringing to you today. So today we have a small, intimate group today. We might have a few more joining on a little bit later. We have a lot of people watching Jupiter and Saturn and getting really engaged with that. So they might pop in a little bit later. But the small, intimate group is great because we are going to be able to get into some deeper discussions. So as I said, I am Dr. Ruth Gotian, and behind the scenes making us all look gorgeous is Dr. Debbie Heiser, the CEO of the Mentor Project and the group that is hosting us today. And I'd like you to meet the other panelists. Tell us who you are and what you do, and just a little bit of some of the things that you've gotten done. Janice.
Hi, I'm Janice Lintz, and I'm the CEO and founder of Hearing Access and Innovations. And one of the projects I've gotten done is induction loops for people with hearing loss in New York City taxis.
So we were just talking before we actually went live, and Janice has really made it her mission to get access for people with hearing loss. And some of these projects that she works on take years, and she is like a dog with a bone. She will not give up. And she will hopefully share some of those things that she's done in order to see those projects really come to fruition, because it's incredible, and it's incredible stories. And she's on a bunch of podcasts where you get to hear little snippets of that story all the time, and all the things that she's done. So Susie, welcome.
Nice to see you.
So good to see you again. And look at you all decked out in red today.
Well, it's the holidays.
Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do.
So I'm Susie Katz, and I am a photographer, and I spend most of my time these days with my nonprofit Photo Wings, where I'm trying to figure out all the possible ways that photography can be utilized outside of the usual silo that people think about it, and in terms of learning how to think, and then learning how to talk with one another, and really picking the minds of some of the most interesting photographers in the world about how they do what they do. And it's just, it's fascinating. I'm very, very lucky.
I'm excited to actually talk to you one time separately about that, because when I teach adults, and I teach adults how to optimize success, much of what we teach is through the use of visuals, since most adults, 2/3 of adults, are visual learners. And we actually use photo cards in order to trigger ideas and trigger more abstract thinking. Because if you're like me, you're a very concrete thinker. And getting from point A to point B, if it's not a straight line, it's hard for us to visualize it. But sometimes if you show them these great pictures of something very abstract, it can really trigger something. And that's how we get that deep learning going. So we should definitely chat about that offline sometime. So I thought I would share with you some of the things that have worked for me. And you guys can chime in at any time. We're not raising hands. This is not third grade. Just chime in. It's our regular conversation. So I am an early bird. I wake up super, super, super early in the morning. So that's why you see me starting to yawn towards the end of this show that we have. It's not because I find these people boring. It's quite the opposite. But I wake up usually at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I've been doing that for years, just naturally waking up at those hours. And that worked well. Many of you who have watched this program before know that at the age of 43, I decided to start pursuing my doctorate. And while you're doing that, while working full time and raising a family, there was so much that had to get done. And the only quiet time that I had where I was not interrupted and I didn't have people who needed things from me were before the sun rose. So my body naturally would wake up very early in the morning, and I would have a mug, which is now behind the glass here in my office, where I would make my cup of coffee. It was actually my grandmother's mug. And during those early hours, I would get so much done. Now, that's great for me because my brain is sharpest in the morning. I can get more done by 10 a.m. than I probably can all day. Because with every hour that goes by, I just find my brain working slower and slower and slower. By 3 o'clock, I can't really do this deep thinking and deep analysis or deep editing like I can at 8, 9, 10 in the morning. So I wake up really early in the morning, have my first cup of coffee, and really start I'm managing my energy. So I do my more cognitive tasks in the morning. And at work, I try to schedule things the same way. I do my cognitive tasks in the morning. That would be budgets, that would be data analysis, that would be writing, that would be editing, anything that required that extreme focus. And then I know that 1, 2, 3 o'clock, things start to slow down and I'm not as productive on those things. It would take me 2, 3, 4 times as long. So what I try to do is have all my meetings in the afternoon if I can, because I don't need that deep focus for what used to be in person or now even a Zoom meeting if I'm not hosting that Zoom meeting. And by scheduling my day that way, by managing my energy that way, I was able to get a lot more done. Now, you have to know if you're a morning person or an afternoon person or an evening person. Some people do so much better at night. Those are their productive hours, the productive hours, those night owls. Susie, is that you? Is that when you get your good work done?
That is absolutely me. I'm known for 3 a.m. Emails. I really start getting rolling about midnight when everything is quiet, the phone isn't ringing, Colbert is over, and I start sitting down. It usually starts with just one thing I was going to do, and the next thing I know, the sun is coming up. But even last night was a good example. I just had some things that I wanted to finish up, and I started on a roll. There was somebody that had applied for one of our grants, and I started doing a little due diligence, and then I found out that we had mutual friends, and I started looking to see what my mutual friend was doing, and it turned out that there was all these other things that they were doing that I knew nothing about. And I get very excited, and then I really can't sleep. And the other thing is people give me all these pens with flashlights in them, because if I am sleeping, my mind is still churning, even though my body is asleep, but my mind is cooking away. So I wake up, and if I don't write it down, I can't go back to sleep. And then I do not remember it in the morning when I think I would have. So I have all these pads and flashlight pens, and I write it down, and that's when I really get my epiphanies. So, we all have our different cycles. And that's mine.
Wow. So you're thinking, actually, it's in your sleep and you write it down. Well, they say when you're most
amazing.
They say when you're most relaxed is when you get your great ideas. That's when you get your great ideas in the shower or while you're driving, because you're really more relaxed. So having something there that you can jot down those notes or record those ideas is really helpful. So Janice, are you a morning person, evening person, night person? And do any of these work for you?
I'm really like Susie. And although when I first wake up, I am pretty productive. And I keep also a pad by my bed, because I wake up, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night, think of something, write something down. Sometimes I can't decipher them. So now I'm a little more thoughtful when I'm writing, but I just get my best ideas like when I first wake up. I will also sometimes work early in the morning. I try not to schedule any calls first thing in the morning because that's my productive time in the morning, and then productive at night, where during, let's say, the afternoon, like you, I'm happy to have meetings in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Bloopers.
Yep. Jax, we saw you for a hot second.
Can you hear my cat in the background? Sorry about that.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
I know I'm changing my background really quick.
Ah, okay.
I'm spicing it up a little bit and coming back on.
Well, as you're doing that, we are talking about the productivity hacks of high achievers, and why is it and how is it that high achievers are able to actually get so much done. So the first thing that we've discussed so far is really managing your energy. So I am the early morning one that really gets more stuff done super early in the morning. And Susie has, basically she's nocturnal, and she keeps total opposite hours from me. And Janice is somewhere in the middle. So, but everyone sort of has a way to jot down ideas that come to them at any time of the day or night. So that is what works for them. But Jax, you did not get the opportunity to introduce yourself. So why don't you do that with that gorgeous background, and tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into your productivity hacks if you have any.
Absolutely. And Ruth, thank you so much. This is awesome. I love being here. So a little about myself: prior military, 17 years. Most of that has been special ops. Currently, my connection here is the COO for the Mentor Project. And I also have a cybersecurity background, primarily in cyber threat intel. So doing nonprofit, I also work in cybersecurity, and I do National Guard. Productivity and time management is key for me to be able to keep track of everything. One of the biggest things for me is I'm having to learn how to become a morning person. It wasn't my number one, even though I've been in the military for 17 years, I'm mostly productive in the evenings. But I have had to learn to be disciplined, to understand that I need to get up at 5 or 6 a.m. and do certain things. And those certain things are typically journaling, meditating, and working out. And if I can get those done in whatever particular order, my day for the rest of the day is much more productive if I don't do those things. So that's really imperative for me. And then also I live on a calendar. Everything, I have 2 calendars. And if it's not on the calendar, it'll probably get missed. So calendar, and I color code my life with these books. And so I have journals, and they're color coded according to like my task and what, like, this is work, this is the Mentor Project. I have like 3 other colors. So everything's color coded for me too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I love that you have the calendar, and that actually brings me to another point. So we've been talking a lot about to-do lists last time. And people have this great to-do list, but I think where people fall short is they don't put the tasks on their calendar. And as a result, they can't get things done. So respond to an email, call so-and-so, submit whatever it is, edit whatever, work on this budget. And if you don't actually carve out time on your calendar to do the task, it very often just doesn't happen. So that's actually a practice that I started doing a few years ago. And I actually learned this from the secretary of a former chair of one of the departments. I happened to be in the elevator with her one time, and I overheard her conversation where she was saying that, you know, he's a chair of a department. He was a physician scientist. He is a physician scientist. And she carves out time in his schedule for him to read the latest journal articles. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? I don't understand. I've never heard of such a thing. You carve out time to read articles? And I said, but who else does that? And that's when I realized we should all be doing that. And maybe that's why he was so productive. And all of a sudden I started carving out time to do these tasks. And what do you know, they would actually get done. And whatever amount of time you think it's going to take to do it, double it. That is something that I've learned. Do any of you guys do that?
I do. So I put everything on my calendar that I need to do. If like if someone says to me, okay, we'll speak like in a few weeks, it goes on the calendar. So I have those type of things at the top of my day. You know where they say like there's no like time on a calendar, there's like no time assigned to it.
Yeah.
I have those. And then I have like sometimes little tasks that I call like time fillers, where I need to accomplish the task. Let's say call a bank, right? I need to follow up on something. I put those also at the top of my calendar. And so when I have gaps between meetings, that's when I do those tasks. And if I have a specific task where I need to actually do something specific, I block out the time on the calendar. But I have also all these like fillers of, and then I'm doing multitasking. So I have like things where, let's say, I might need to scan, and that'll sit on top of my printer when I have like literally 2 minutes between meetings. I will quickly scan. So I try to use my calendar to like fill in depending on what the type of task needs. But I always diary it on the calendar. So when someone says call in 2 weeks or in a specific, it's on the calendar. So I don't forget about it. When I was doing a to-do list, I wouldn't follow up the same way.
Yeah. And I agree. I do the same thing. If someone says follow up in 2 weeks, I will do that. And actually that helped because there was an article that I wrote for a major journal, and the editor said, follow up with me in 2 weeks. And I did. And she said, thank God I totally forgot about this one. I was so overwhelmed with, Project XYZ or whatever crisis she was dealing with. She totally forgot about my article that I busted my butt with for so long. And she asked me to follow up. So I'm doing exactly what she asked. I'm doing exactly what she asked, just pinging you, just, percolating this to the top of your email inbox or bubbling it up, use whatever your favorite words are. So
I set up meetings to give myself deadlines, just kind of the reverse. I'll schedule a meeting with somebody and then I know I have to be prepared for it. I work best on deadline and I have lots and lots of lists.
Yes.
And sometimes I'll put something on the list, even though I've done it, just so I can cross it out to know
you like that.
And it's a little bit of affirmation. But in my world, if I'm going on a photographic project, if I don't have every single thing that I need, I'm stuck. So the lists really, really, really help.
For you, that's helpful. Hey, Bruce, good to see you.
Hey, Bruce.
Hello.
Hey.
Greetings from the void.
From the void. I love it. I love it. Bruce, you're going to tell everybody who you are, but you missed the intro a little bit. We are actually talking about the productivity hacks. What is it that makes high achievers produce so much and be so productive? What are some of the tools that they use, the favorite tools, realizing that everybody's different and everybody's got their own hacks that they work, but maybe from this assembled group to those people who are listening and watching, there's something there that resonates with them that they are willing to try. It costs nothing to try. So Bruce, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and if you have a favorite productivity hack.
Yes, so my name is Bruce Wiley. I'm a professor of health policy management. I also do computational modeling and different types of computational analytics, AI, machine learning, those kind of buzzwords, et cetera. So we do a lot of that work in health and public health. I also do a fair amount of writing. I'm a senior contributor to Forbes, and I cover health and healthcare and many different areas like that. So I guess one productivity hack that I can think of is I find that you can very well end up wasting a lot of time with meetings. So I remember when I used to work in the consulting world, we sat around and we had a meeting with a client, and it was like a 2-hour meeting or 3-hour meeting maybe, and the only result of that meeting was to schedule another meeting.
Another meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I realized at that point that, I looked back and said, what did we do in those past 2 to 3 hours? And it was neither like there's fun. There are fun things you can do when you meet with people and talk with people. And then there's things that you can do from a productivity standpoint and get things done. And this was neither. Like people didn't really seem to be enjoying the meeting, but it wasn't productive either. And so I found that, reducing those type of things can really buy back time. So like if you're going to have a meeting and you want to get something done, have a very clear agenda, have a very clear set of action items, and say, why are we having this meeting? What's the purpose of this meeting? And if no one can come up with a purpose of the meeting, then usually it's not worthwhile having the meeting. Like you can do something else. Either make it like one way or the other, like make it a social thing, or decide to try to take care of that stuff separately or without getting together. So I found that
sharing information is an email, not a meeting.
Yeah. So but I found that applies to many different things. Like if you want to get certain things done, as long as you sort of clearly say, okay, this is the purpose of why we're doing this, let's get together, get it done, and then sort of clearly file it away and say, this is what we need to do. These are our action items. And then this is what we need to do going forward. And I found that actually reclaims quite a lot of time.
And then, as Janice said, you need to have a follow-up to make sure that people are actually getting these things done. So somebody has to be in charge of that follow-up.
Yep.
Just reminding you were going to turn this in 2 weeks or update us or whatever it is. So
yep,
absolutely. Hey, Bruce, are you a morning person or evening person or night person? When do you get your best work done?
I am definitely not a morning person. So yes. And then I went through like medical training and all this thing, and that's like the complete opposite. So that was really sort of putting on a suit or like clothes that don't fit. So yeah, so I consider myself a night owl. I can be productive in the afternoon as well, but I find that like there's something about the nighttime where it's sort of peaceful, and you can sit back and think about things, and you can contemplate the day, and it's almost like throughout the day, you're absorbing things are floating around, and then you suck them in like a sponge, and then it's almost like at nighttime you can process all this. You can say, oh, okay, I experienced this during the day, etc. And that's when you can start really piecing things together. So I think of the combination of the fact that things are more tranquil, but also you've had the whole day experience to feed you information, I think can make the night times pretty productive.
It's so interesting because I am not of much use at nighttime, right? That a lot of us get together on Saturday nights. We have this virtual happy hour, and I'm always the first one to log off. At 10 o'clock, I say it's my bedtime. I got to go. And some of them go on till I don't even know what time. But there's something that we call in adult learning. You have reflection in action, reflection on action. So a lot of people are reflecting in the moment that it happens. A lot of people can do that. A lot of people can reflect a little bit later, but then you have people like me, and it's actually something that a lot of extroverts do. It takes us time to reflect on it. We can't really reflect in the moment. We reflect a lot later. We'll get that aha moment. It could be a day later. It could be 2 days later. Like, oh, that was, So maybe that's why I don't work so well at night. I don't know. But I like the quiet time at 6 a.m. So what you're seeing, that tranquility at night, I see in the morning. So everyone really needs to find out what works for them. It's not that my method is better than Bruce's method or Susie's method, or everyone's got what works for them. And you need to know when you are most productive, and don't waste that time. Don't waste that time. Whatever your peak time is, manage your energy at that time and really focus on the things that need that cognitive energy and that cognitive focus. Anyone else have another tip that works for them?
Just a response to that. I remember one time during medical school, someone was talking about how great a field anesthesiology is. And he started off by saying, he was trying to convince all of us medical students to take that career path. So he started off by saying, the great thing about anesthesiology is you get up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and after that, everything went blank in my mind. Like he could have said, then we hand you gold bars and sushi and all these things like that, and massages, but like it just went blank. I just said, I cannot do this field. So
I will tell you, because I've given grand rounds there. Grand rounds is the big talks that they have every week. And their grand rounds are at 7 a.m., which means if you're giving the talk, you need to be there at 6:30 a.m. to make sure that the tech is working and the mics are working. That's kind of early for a talk, even for someone who likes to wake up early. Yeah, Jax, it was painful. And try giving that talk at 7 a.m. to a green dot. That's really rough. Who else has a hack that works for them?
So if there's something I really want to read, I have a file like to read later, to watch later. And also I have these little pads everywhere, and I will stick them in different places depending on priorities, so that I can review them at the proper time. Sometimes I color coordinate them, but that helps. And I just know that I'm not going to be very good in the morning. I can do it if I have to, if I go to a conference, but usually if I do that, I get up at least an hour early to wake up enough to be coherent.
Yes, I hear you. I need that too.
And I lay everything out. Like if I'm going to go on a trip and it's an early morning flight, I will be up until 5 a.m. getting everything together, and I'll have my clothes laid out, and I'll have everything exactly what I need, because I know that my brain is going to function at halftime in the morning. So, I do it when I'm awake enough to do it and not forget things.
That's smart. That's why we tell kids to pack their bags at night, right? Same reason. I'll tell you something that has saved me a ton of time and has saved my sanity. And it's something that I actually started doing this summer. I shut off all social media notifications on my phone. All of them. So if you send me a message, if there's a notification, I don't know about it until I log in. And you know what? I didn't really miss anything. I really didn't miss anything. There was nothing there that was so urgent, right? And if there is something urgent, they're not going to contact me on social media anyway. So it has saved me, I think, hours of time. I think it has saved my sanity from just, jumping up all the time every time there was another message. And also, there is research on this, that every time you get distracted, it takes you time. I think the time is 23 minutes to refocus. I can't keep doing that all day long. I can't spend the time to refocus. Sometimes I just need to, put my head down and focus. So I always do that. And besides shutting off the social media, my phone is always turned upside down. My ringer is always off. It's on silent and it's turned upside down. So I don't hear buzzing or anything else. And that has really worked for me. It has really lightened the load more than I ever thought that it would. I don't know if any of you do that or find that that's helpful at all.
Yeah, Ruth, everything you said, I do all of those. I removed social media. I removed all the social media apps, not just the alerts, from my phone a couple of years ago. And I just have LinkedIn on there. And even that, I turned off all the alerting on it because I started checking it way too often. And so that was a big thing. And then on top of it, I've turned off all alerting just recently in the last, probably last month. I turned off all alerting minus just regular messages on my phone to just avoid getting the news alerts and everything just pinging constantly on my phone. And then my smartwatch, the only thing that I get on my smartwatch are phone calls. So I don't get any texts. I don't get any other alerting through my actual wrist watch because there's just so many distractions throughout the day. And then on my personal laptop, I don't have any messaging that can ping up. I have a Mac, so none of my messages, if I'm working on my phone, can actually ping or show if I'm getting a call or anything on my Mac. So if I'm working, I'm focused in entirely, because I get really distracted easily.
You're better than I am.
I don't even own a
That's
TV.
impressive.
Like I have no TV in my house. Yep.
I don't either.
That's so awesome. I don't meet a lot of people that don't have TVs.
I don't have a TV.
Yeah.
I got rid of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't watch TV either.
Yeah, when I moved, you know what? I got rid of it because I realized like I didn't want to pay for cable when I was traveling so much. And then like I didn't notice that. And I realized like I watch, the Amazon Prime or Netflix on my laptop, and it took up space and I just didn't want it. But I just shut the notifications, because I do find the Facebook message the ping distracting. And so I'm going to try this. I'm going to see how this goes. I just shut that, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're going to see how that works. It's a good idea.
Dr. Debbie Heiser just said that in the Heiser household, there is no television watching either. So maybe that has something to do with it, that there was just too much time just watching things. Now, I will say I do watch TV, but I binge watch. So if I have a big deal, I could go weeks without watching anything, and then I just need to numb my brain. And there's plenty on television for my brain to get numb. And I usually watch shows that require zero thinking whatsoever. And that's usually what I'll do. So I'll binge it for a while, right? And I spoke before about having milestones. And when you hit the milestone, you reward yourself. Some of that rewarding myself is of binge watching something. So.
Yeah, and I'm the opposite, since I'm involved in journalism. I have the news on all the time, but I'm very, very good at multitasking. And I can just look up quickly and kind of get a feel for if there's something I need to watch, or a note, or somebody that I want to interview, or something that relates to something we're doing. It's pretty important. And I'm a news junkie and I need to be on top of things. But I haven't watched, I don't think I've watched a movie since the beginning of COVID. I wish I had, and I don't watch any of those series. I watch documentaries. I watch some stuff for fun, but I try not to get into those series because they're so all consuming, and I hear about them from others and I feel like I'm out of that loop. But it's, it's like quality calories. You do more of what you feel like you need to do or you want to do, and try not to get sucked into the things that are like energy vampires that just take all your attention.
And that, I think, is really what part of productivity is. It's managing your energy, and when you work best, what are the things that distract you? What are the things that energize you, and just making sure that you have what you need and get rid of what you don't. And I think that's part of it.
I do like watching like something on Amazon, like at like 10 o'clock at night, so I can wind down, because otherwise my brain never shuts off.
Yeah.
So I kind of need like those really brainless television, like TV, but on my laptop shows on Amazon. But I'm not like, I don't even know like what date. It's like I will binge watch something, but I try not to watch the binge series, because then I will stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning and just completely do the entire series. There is no waiting till tomorrow. But the other tip, like I will just I watched this show, Jack Ryan, and I was like, okay, I need to find out what happened. We're going to watch the whole thing straight through, like the entire series. I was like, I can't do this again. This is worse than chocolate in my house.
I got into a couple different things like that, and I decided I do not have another 8 hours of my life. So I go online and I Google what happened to this and that a show, and then I can see what happened, and I've saved myself days.
Oh no, that's too disappointing.
No.
Terrible, but I do it.
Now, I want to ask you, have any of you heard of the Pomodoro Technique? So the Pomodoro Technique.
I've heard of pasta Pomodoro.
Similar.
Okay.
So the Pomodoro Technique is really about working in spurts, because to work head down, fully focused for 1 hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, it's almost impossible. Your brain is going to wander. But the Pomodoro Technique is you work for a short period of time, 20, 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, work for another 20 minutes, 5-minute break. And you repeat this cycle 4 times, and then you take a longer break. And by doing that, it doesn't make sense that, you know, you're taking all these 5-minute breaks, but it actually makes you more productive. So it's called the Pomodoro Technique, and it started with that egg timer that you have in the kitchen. It has now evolved to the phone. I have expanded it, and tomorrow I have a Forbes article coming out about how doing laundry has made me more productive. And in essence, so that sometimes 20 minutes is too short for me. A lot of people know I'm writing a book now, and sometimes you need more than 20 minutes. Sometimes I need 40 minutes when I get into the flow. Flow is when you start working, you lose all track of time. You don't feel hungry. You don't need to go to the bathroom. You are so super focused. And sometimes I can do that for I'll need that 40 minutes. So I realized that the traditional Pomodoro technique of 20, 25 minutes wasn't working for me. So instead of just using the regular timer on my phone, I started using the timer of the washing machine. So the amount of time it would take to do a cycle was the time that I would fully focus on the work. And then, as Susie said, I was able to multitask, do my fully focused work, and get laundry done at the same time. So, ta.
I love that idea. That's awesome. And I
Yeah,
have the washing machine right here next to me.
See? And then if you like it as the background noise, all the better. And my break was moving it from the washer to the dryer. And that's when I would do something for me, which means I would either listen to Audible or a podcast or LinkedIn Learning or something like that in between, it was sort of a palate cleanser for my brain.
So let me ask you this though, Ruth. So what I have found, being a writer myself and getting into the flow, sometimes I don't want to break that flow, and you're in it, and say your washing machine stops, and you go and make the change because it's healthy for you. Because I'm trying to get into the pattern right now of taking those breaks at the 45-minute mark. But when do you know it's okay to just push through and just keep pushing through for 1, 2, 3 hours, and it's okay because you're in the flow at that point in time, compared to the other times where you're like, I'm sort of in the flow and I should push through, but I should take a break now. When do you know those are the healthy times to take those breaks?
So for me, it really depends again on the hour of the day, and it depends what I am working on. So if it's something that I really don't like to do, I need more breaks. But if I am writing something or really in the flow of something, you know, if the timer goes off because the laundry cycle is done, what's the worst that'll happen? My laundry will sit there for an extra, half an hour. It's really not a big deal. So, or the shirts will get a little wrinkled. I don't really care. I could just still push through that a little bit, right? And if I'm still in the flow, I'll just shut the timer off. The problem that's happened for me, and this has happened repeatedly, is that I will shut it off because I'm in the flow and then forget about the laundry. Until 2-3 hours later, I was like, oh, do I need to wash that again?
Been there.
So what is the answer? Do you need to wash it again? Right? Like, how long is too long? Right.
That's a whole conversation for another time, but yes. So
Jax, one of the things,
Pomodoro and flow. Go ahead, Bruce.
Jax, one of the things that I realized that, like, there's times in which you're in the flow and you need to keep that, right? Because you're like, you've got it, you've caught lightning in a bottle and you want to keep going. And then there's some times where, like, no matter what you do, you just can't get going. So I found that it's really important to recognize that really early on. Because the worst thing is, like, to spend 2 or 3 hours trying to get stuff done and it never gets done. You might as well just go and, like, go play some sports or do something fun. So I think that initial, like, getting that sense, and then once you know that you're in the flow, try to clear out everything as much as possible so that you can just stay in that zone. And then the tough thing is when you get in the flow and you have to do something in like an hour and a half. So I've actually like canceled things or shifted things later just because I knew I was kind of going with something.
But that's when you can actually even be more productive.
Yeah.
Right? Because,
Yeah.
you know, the Parkinson's law where the work expands to fill the time.
Yeah.
But if you know you have something in an hour and a half, you're going to work at double time to get it done.
Yep. Yeah.
Because you know you need to drop your pen in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we get so much work done before vacation, because it has to get done before we go on vacation.
Yeah, it focuses you. You have no choice. It's like, you know, it's like what, you know, 2 minutes left in the game or something like that. You have to focus, and yeah, it's amazing. You can spend days before a deadline and not get anything done, and then in a matter of like 4 hours, get like 4 weeks of work done. So,
you know, that's why so many have. Bruce, I don't know if you've ever. Well, we've discussed this. I know you've written NIH grants. NIH grants are due at a very specific hour. It's like your taxes. You cannot submit it even 1 minute late. Do you know how many grants were submitted by the skin of our teeth at literally the last minute? We worked on it for a year. I remember this. I said, how is it that we worked on this grant for a year and we submitted it 20 minutes before the deadline? How is that even possible? But that's what happens.
Yep.
I find when I can't work on a project, I will switch onto something else, or to small projects where, even if they're like silly little things, just to get to feel like I have a feeling of success, so that then I can get into that rhythm and then move on to, because sometimes I can't work on the big project because I feel like there are all these little projects like piling up. And if I get those out of the way, then I can focus better on the big project.
So when do you do the small stuff?
I try to do the small stuff like between calls, like right just before this, I had a bunch of little things and I save them, and I actually have like a folder or a pile, depending on what it is, to do just specifically for those times. And I also have different color flags for emails like that I know I'm going to do at different times. So I save like certain projects for those in between calls.
That'll work.
Yeah, we do a lot of interviewing of photographers and big thinkers around the visual image. And over time, I know who they're going to be. And as I find an article, I'll put it in a file. And I've learned that it'll take me forever to do a ton of research. So I have someone on my team prepare what we call a research doc. And as soon as I see that there's some article or something interesting, I'll send it to them, and they'll send me this document back with the full biography. And we have questions, some questions we ask everybody. So I've got a file of those, and interviews that they've done previously, and articles they've written, and anything that relates to that person. And then when it comes time for me to put together the interview questions, which I do, I finally learned, a lot of you probably know, it took me a long time to know you can put documents side by side, so that you can just take like the questions that we usually ask, and I can just drag them over. And I can be looking at the previous interview, whether it's video or it's something written out, and I can zone it. If I'm kind of on deadline, I'm very good at zoning in on exactly the important things, and I can just scan it and pull out the important thing and put it into mine. And then I have it in kind of a mess, and then I organize it into a flow that makes sense. And sometimes we'll interview 10 and 12 people, and I've got, once I do the first couple, then I can do the other ones and just tailor them to that person. But it's worked pretty well, because there's a lot of details. And then when I do the interview, sometimes half of it goes out of the window because they tell me something that's so interesting that I just go, I do the important things, and I go with what they're talking about, something that I might not have even anticipated. So I try to keep it kind of a flow, but it's fascinating that I have to work on deadline usually.
Well, it's so interesting what you said about those folders. It brought me back to very, very, very early in my career. I worked at Mad Magazine. This is pre-internet days, and we had a folder on every imaginable person. And every time there was a picture of that person in a magazine, it was one of my jobs to rip it out and put it in the folder, so that when the artist would come in, they had pictures of the person from every angle, so that they can then draw it out for Mad Magazine. But that was just as an aside. But what I'm hearing from your folders and Janice's color-coded things on her calendar and Jax's color-coded notebooks, and Bruce, I'm sure you have your own way of doing it as well. It's really about organization. It really sounds to me, it's not just organizing time, it's organizing thoughts and organizing energy and organizing what you're doing when you're doing it, and finding the files that you need to work with so you're not wasting time looking for things. So that seems to be the organization, seems to be the common thread here. And then there were just little hacks that we gave people throughout, and hopefully that'll work for someone. Before we wrap up, does anyone have any other hacks that might work for them?
I'll add one more thing.
Tell us, Jack.
So my friends find this a little odd about me, but you can come into my house and I have like a 47-inch whiteboard, like right here in front of me. And it has all my short-term, my midterm, and my long-term goals. And I look at those, I try to look at those every day during my journaling before I start the day. And then what I do is from those tasks, I have a little mini whiteboard, and this is what I write all my to-do tasks for that day on. And when I write them down, I will star only 3. And the 3 that I star are the ones that I must get done by the end of the day. Because I read an article about 3 is the max, no more than that. Even if you get it done, that's great. Everything else is gravy. So that is typically how I start my days. I will do all of the things that I need to do, look at my whiteboard, see what I accomplished, put it on here. And then this is my check it off and wipe it off. And then this usually goes through the week. And then I just keep updating it through the week. And then I have a weekend tracker. So this is a huge help for me. I think that daily tasks, and this goes off of my calendar too, but daily tasks are really important. And those daily tasks need to align with what your end goal and your long-term and your midterm goals are. And you need to have them placed somewhere that you can see them daily to remind you, like, where am I going and why am I doing these tasks? What's my end goal? So, yeah.
I love that you have a whiteboard, that you have 2 of them actually. You have a mini one on your desk and you have a big one. I actually have a big one in my office. So I do a lot of research and a lot of writing. And when you do research, there's very many steps you have to go through. So from the idea, then you need to get an internal review board, then you need to collect data, then you need to analyze the data, then you need to write it, submit it, revisions, resubmit. There's a whole bunch of steps. And I actually, if I write an idea for a paper, it goes on a Post-it note and then it travels down the timeline, right? So it's always big fun when I get to collaborate with other people and we get to write together. The big thing is when they get to come to my office and move the Post-it note a column to the right. That's always, that's fun.
It's so rewarding. Yeah.
See, it's really funny. You guys are so old school. I like the whole just delete. So I learned from John Spence at Renaissance Weekend to have a to-do list and a waiting for list. And so I put anything I'm waiting for on the waiting for list, but everything, I'm completely computerized. So I just love it that it's on a computer and I just hit delete, I just gone. No whiteboards, no fuss,
and that works
no
for a lot of people. There's actually an app for that. It's called Trello. I think it's Trello,
Yep.
right? And a lot people love that, right? Some people use spreadsheets. I just like I'm like Susie, I need that kinetic, the moving the Post-it a column to the right. For me, it's fulfilling. So there's different kinds of things that would work for different people.
Sorry to interrupt, but especially Jax is much younger. So, but it's such an old school method that is so fun. It's just, I find that really funny that the perception is that, right, that young would be much more electronic, but you still like the old fashioned whiteboards, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I love them. I still can't get into the electronics. I've tried to, but I think it's because unless I open up my phone and go directly to it, I don't see it I need to see it. That's me.
Yep.
So the whiteboard is perfect. I could get an electronic whiteboard. That would be awesome. That'll probably happen next.
Like one of the smart boards.
Yes. Oh, that would be amazing.
Oh, I think once we get
Oh.
smart boards at home, I think we're into trouble.
It
That's
seems
a
like
little too
one
much.
common theme is like finishing things,
Mhm.
right? Like, so like finding some way of either graphically representing that you finished something, because I think that's one challenge. Like it's very easy to start stuff,
Yeah.
but then finding some way to hold yourself accountable to like, okay, I'm just going to finish this. I think is important,
I think it's key.
whether
great
it's whiteboard
satisfaction.
or electronically, or I don't know,
Yep.
stack food or something
Or
of that
stack of
sort.
Post-it notes
Yeah.
that you have all over the place, right? I have Post-it notes everywhere as well. So I'm like Susie, I love my Post-it notes. Guys, we are running short on time. Everyone, tell us where we can learn more about you. Susie. Oh, you're muted, Susie.
Remember doing that.
That's
So you can find me, how I spend most of my time, on photowings.org, photowings.org. We do a lot of really interesting things there. And you can find me on the Mentor Project. I made a video under 1 hour with a mentor. I'm on there. And if you want to see a little bit of my personal work, one of them is my virtual background today, SusanKatzPhotography.com.
Thank you. How long have you been a photographer?
I tell people my whole life. I've been a professional since my early 20s.
Wow.
I've been doing
Wow.
photo wings since about 2005.
Wow.
I spend most of my time around that, but I still do a lot of photography. It just isn't the same as I used to.
Wow. That's great. Thank you. Jax.
Hey, everybody. You guys can find me on thementorproject.org. Just go to the About page or LinkedIn at Jax Scott. And then I also have a blog, Beans and Bites blog, and it's Tech Bites, BYTES, and coffee beans. And then something I found very interesting is all of us that are on the show tonight, we all are wearing glasses. I don't know what that says about us, but I found that very interesting.
That's because we spend so much time in front of a screen. I wouldn't even be able to see you. I didn't have my glasses on. I've had them since college. Bruce.
Well, I think also glasses are a fashion statement too, right? So, so you can find me Bruce Y. Lee. So if it's important to keep the Y, because you get very different results if you just Google Bruce Lee. So Bruce Y. Lee. If you want to read my stuff, Bruce Y. Lee and Forbes. BruceYLee.com is my website, and my Twitter handle and social media thing is Bruce_Y_Lee. And you will not find me in front of a TV.
Nice.
Yeah, not watching a TV.
I love it.
Janice.
But do you watch any like Netflix or Amazon at all, or none whatsoever?
I don't. So I'm like Susie. I follow the news. So I have like news alerts, and I follow news feeds and things like that. I follow news on the internet, and all the streaming and things like that. So I have to follow news partly because I like it, but also because I'm writing about it. But in terms of Netflix, I don't really watch Netflix. I'll watch TV in hotels and things like that. So.
So you can find me at hearingaccess.com. That's it.
Great.
That's it. Short to the point.
That's it. And Janice was just a guest on a podcast with a former guest from this show, with Andy Lopata. She was on his Connected Leadership podcast, and that I think launched today. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you can go check her out there.
And he was so gracious. He was really so gracious. He was very funny.
And the British accent is always nice, right? I am Dr. Ruth Gotian. You can find me on my website, ruthgotian.com. And you can also go to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just my name, Ruth Gotian. I will see you there. And thank you to behind the scenes, Dr. Debbie Heiser, CEO of the Mentor Project, who also was a guest on the podcast today, but I'm forgetting the name. I don't know, Debbie, if you're able to unmute yourself and tell us.
Did she do the Underdog podcast?
Not yet. Not yet.
It's a Tom Matt show. It's a radio show that is also a podcast.
Fabulous.
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 Great.
So Debbie could be found on the Mentor Project. So go check it out. There is a ton of content there for every age imaginable, for kids, for adults, in almost every industry. So there are a bunch of shows there, including this one, so you can watch some of the back shows. And we will see you next week. Until then, happy holidays.